In Los Angeles, beneath the old walnut tree inside Griffith Park, stood a worn-out bench, a place passed by hundreds every day, yet rarely noticed with intention. That morning, George Clooney had taken a walk through the park. He had a day off from filming. He needed solitude, to breathe, to listen to the silence, and maybe think a little. As he walked with his coffee in hand, something caught his eye. An elderly woman, in her 80s, white-haired, wearing a gray coat, sitting alone on that same bench, a worn knitting bag in her lap, hands cracked and weathered. But her eyes were fixed on something in the distance, as if waiting for someone no longer there. George kept walking, but something pulled him back. He stopped a few feet away, then softly asked, "Excuse me, would it be all right if I sat with you?" She turned her head. Her eyes were watery, but she smiled gently. "You look like my son." George froze for a moment, as if a silent weight pressed into his chest. He sat down without saying a word. She spoke again. He was always late, but he always came. "Today's just taken a bit longer, but I'm still waiting." George took a deep breath. "What was his name?" "Daniel." His eyes were like yours, always looking far away, but his heart was so close to mine. She reached into her bag and pulled out a photo. Black and white, torn edges, a young man in uniform, a small pond behind him, his mother beside him. "The last time we said goodbye was right here on this bench." I hugged him and he promised me, "Mom, I'll come back." But he didn't. George lowered his head, out of respect for the tears falling down her face. "I lost my mom way too early," he whispered. Her last words were, "I love you, but I always wished I heard more." She looked at him, not as George Clooney, but as if looking at her son. Sometimes a stranger becomes exactly who we needed all along. Hours passed. George listened carefully to her regrets, to her prayers and hopes that never left her heart. Eventually, she stood up, a bit shaky but firm. "That's enough waiting for today." "But you know what?" I felt him. "Today." As she turned to walk away, George pulled out a pen from his coat. He leaned forward and carved small words under the wooden bench. Daniel was loved here. He still is. When she saw it, her tears flowed freely. She bowed her head, then softly asked George, "Will you be here tomorrow?" George smiled, his voice low but steady. "I've always been one of the sons who came late." A small crowd gathered around the same bench in the park. A documentary was being filmed, Silent Heroes. George Clooney shared the story with the world, and a plaque was placed on that bench. Sometimes, a stranger is exactly the missing piece. A bench is more than a seat. It's the address of a waiting heart.